Hey kids, you're listening to Nothing in Moderation with Travis and Mike. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on this regularly scheduled dumpster fire.
You can catch us on all the social medias under @NothingInModPod. So let's go ahead and get this hillbilly hog fight underway. I know you and I were just talking off the air because we do that anyway, and normally the show is a shits and giggles good time and stuff like that, but given everything that's going on right now in the United States, we can't help but feel we should at least talk about it somewhat. Obviously, this isn't meant to be a political show or a news show or anything like that. It's mostly about Mike and I fucking off and the stories that come from it. But with everything that's going on right now, for those of you that aren't aware, we released an episode on Thursday, and since we recorded that episode, a gentleman by the name of George Floyd had an incident with police where his life was taken. The law enforcement officer who pinned him down has since been arrested and charged with homicide and manslaughter, and it's looking like the other officers who were standing there are probably going to receive charges as well. In response to that incident, there has been some noise from the community, and I don't mean that in a negative fashion. There has been some protesting, and then it's gone as far as burning buildings down and rioting and looting, which you can have whatever opinion you want on that stuff. I'm just trying to tell you what all is going on in case you're somehow unaware and you listen to us. The president was just on television from the White House and gave a speech where he said he has encouraged all the governors to call upon the National Guard to be out in force on the streets in overwhelming numbers to squash the protests, to dominate any of the protesters as needed, and that if the governors refuse to do what he said, he will himself deploy the U.S. Army on U.S. soil. Which I may be mistaken, and please correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there. I don't think that the U.S. Army is allowed to be deployed against civilians of the United States.
I don't know for sure. I was reading something earlier about and one of the acts they used it's from like the 1800s, but they used it in the 60s, or in 92 was the last time they used it. But it allows it basically gives the military the ability to act as police on U.S. soil, but I don't remember the name of the act. So I'm sure there's some intricacies with that go into effect, or whatever. I don't know specifically about that. So. But
that's kind of where we're at right now. We just watched the end of the video. I mean, he finished his broadcast. I'd say 30 seconds ago, but I know it's probably 5 minutes ago. Yeah. So, and Mike and I both looked at each other from a distance without seeing each other, and we're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, pretty much.
If anybody is not aware, there was an instance where the National Guard was utilized for crowd control. I believe it was in Ohio State, or the state of Ohio.
I think so, yeah.
There was a shooting of unarmed civilians. And obviously we don't want that to happen again. We don't want any loss of life, if possible. I mean, obviously the whole incident started, or at least the uprising, or whatever term you want to use, the protesting started specifically after the loss of life of George Floyd. And him and I have discussed, and by him I mean Mike and I have discussed, we understand being upset and property damage and stuff, but obviously we hope that protesters and civilians, and regardless of opinion, aren't harming each other directly. Property can be replaced, but life can't, obviously, and there's no sense in taking additional lives for the sake of someone's life lost.
Mm-hmm. So the act I was referring to, because I figured it out real quick, was the Insurrection Act of 1807. it governs the ability of the president to deploy military troops within the United States to suppress civil disorder, insurrection, and rebellion. Doesn't specifically state, what they can and can't do within that. As far as like the actual, people in the military, like what their limits are. But I know I read somewhere that it basically gives them the ability to act as police because they cannot do that currently in the U.S. Goddamn dog.
Right, and I guess that kind of is how the U.S. military, the Union military, was able to confront the Southern military as well, because now you have, although that's not really acting as police, that's acting as war.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's enemy combatants.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's going
to get weird. I know.
It's a scary scenario. I mean, I don't think where we are is a location or a hotbed of particular concern of harm to ourselves. We obviously care about, like I said, everybody out there, and we don't want anybody getting hurt, but that doesn't mean that just because we're absent from the area of risk that we don't care about it.
Yeah, definitely.
I know I sent you a video yesterday, I think, where Killer Mike gave a speech where in Atlanta with the mayor and stuff like that, and I was very impressed by everything he had to say and just well thought out, but it seemed like it was off the cuff. He's just a really smart guy.
Yeah, Killer Mike is he's super duper smart. He posted something on his Instagram from his high school yearbook where he was talking about like activism and getting involved. Like even when he was 17 years old. And it's kind of it was in his family. It's kind of how he was raised. Like his grandmother, taught him a lot of those things and made him get involved in the community. And, I know his dad was a cop. So it's his interpretation of the situation is like 100% spot on. And I just hope that he is able to help organize on a national level. I know a lot of the other people specifically in the hip hop community that are very active in the community, like guys like J. Cole, they've all been out. I saw a video earlier where Michael B. Jordan was out helping protest and just kind of trying to help organize people. So I think it's good to have those bigger names that the communities follow to help bring everybody together. So
yeah, it's we discussed mob mentality and how easy it is to get carried away with things, and if other people are doing stuff, how easy it is to get caught up in it, and that applies to both the cops who don't step in to stop something that they should. If they were seeing it and it wasn't a cop doing it, that they would make the effort to stop it. And it applies to people at the protest. It's, I don't want to tell anyone how to do anything, because obviously peaceful protests only gain you inches in a game of miles.
Yeah.
But if your goal is to get out there and demand change and be heard and stuff like that, obviously harming other people or ripping people out of their vehicles or smashing windows when people are on the highway and stuff like that is not conducive to portraying that message. But I can't say I understand the anger and rage that's felt and fault people for aiming it somewhere. It's just ideally there's not additional people harmed or killed. And lots of videos have come out about the cops at certain insurrection sites or whatever you want to call them, and the whole protest is supposed to be about police brutality and abuse of power and stuff like that, and then you still have the cops that are out there pepper spraying the shit out of somebody that's just holding a sign, or throwing somebody off of a stage, or you know what I mean, a full grown man that's clearly in good shape pushing a petite woman on her ass type deal. And it's like, well, listen, if you have to go hands-on with somebody because that's what the situation dictates, and law enforcement, and somebody's going to jail, and you go to put handcuffs on them and they resist, I get it. To a certain extent, you need to secure the subject without harming them or preventing harm as much as possible, but you don't just say, I'm big, I'm in charge, I'm a badass, so I'm gonna physically harm you knowing that I can get away with it. I think that's kind of the whole thing here.
Definitely. And I know that like it's so odd because like the speech from Trump is it was polarizing, like most of his speeches are. And as I process it more, thinking back on it now that I've, after listening to it, like I just see how it's going to potentially cause more problems than it is solve. So the next few days are probably going to be pretty interesting. So
I was reading an article before you even told me he was on stage, because I thought he was not going to be giving any kind of speech or anything today. Mm-hmm. I thought it was going to be like yesterday. And in the article, they were bringing up how the previous administration, which was President Obama, had some people that were very capable speechwriters, and that he himself was eloquent when he wrote something, and would add flair to things that he didn't write, and would write a lot of his own speeches and stuff. And how he would be able to use words to talk to people, to try and bring people together, to promote unity, to try and ease people's hardships or feelings of unease, and how that was not expected to be the case the next time the president spoke about this, which ended up being about 10 minutes after I read that article, is when he was speaking about this. And it very much so was, we're in charge. You need to do what we say. We're the big dicks on the block. And if you're not going to come along with it, we're just going to show you how it is anyway. Yeah. The president did make the comment that the country is there to help those who have lost and help make them whole, and help, recover finances from lost property and business and stuff like that. So good for the president and making that promise to help people. But it's not just those who have lost property from this incident that are the ones who are asking to be made whole or be treated equally or anything like that.
Yeah. It's definitely not just money that's been lost. So
no, not at all. And I saw that National Guard and law enforcement either last night or today returned fire, quote unquote, at a crowd, and somebody else ended up dead at one of the protests / riots or rallies or whatever we want to call them.
Yeah. One of the, because I was watching the NPR feed of the press conference, and it wasn't like there was no commentators from NPR on it. Like, it was literally just like a camera set up at the back of the thing that they were live streaming from. So there was no, no opinions or anything, but you could hear off to the side somebody interviewing with whoever they were, whatever network they were with. And he pointed out, he's like, I got to assume that there's a reason that he's having this speech in the Rose Garden where you can plainly hear the tear gas canisters firing off into crowds behind us, versus having it in the briefing room where there's none of those distractions behind you. And I think
I didn't even pay attention to that.
But I think his speech really amplified that, because that's exactly what he was going for. So it's like I said, it's just those things, because we're so fresh from seeing it, I just kind of process more things and catch more things, and as I replay it in my head, and that's one of the things that just dawned on me. So
it's wild, man. I know there were protests there last night, and there was the tweets were coming out about fresh Secret Service agents, ready and waiting, and essentially saying, "Go ahead, try it. We'll still win the day." Type deal. And then obviously the information comes out that during those protests and people at the gates and stuff like that, the president was evacuated from the main living area into the bunker that's at the White House. Yeah. And that's when he was calling the governors and stuff scaredy cats or cowards or whatever it was.
It's cool to call the governors scaredy cats as you sit from your bunker that was built to withstand pretty much anything.
Oh. Yeah, I would rather see everything play out intelligently the whole way around. Obviously, from the political perspective, I think the politicians should act like fucking human beings, and not just lucky people who've been, fortunate their entire lives. But that's that old dog new tricks concept. If he doesn't get it, it's I said it, so it needs to happen. If I said it, it's true. Don't question me. Just do it. And I get that. He owned a business, and that's essentially how it worked. If he wanted something done at work, he said it needed to be done. If it wasn't done, heads rolled. But that's clearly not the way it goes. He said he had some lines at the very end of his speech about, without liberty, there's not this. Without justice, there's not this. Without safety, there's not this. And it just brings me back to, to the quotes about those who would give up essential liberty for temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And or the tree of democracy needs refreshed from time to time with the blood of, tyrants and martyrs alike, or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, by the way, why I got booted from commenting in politics on Reddit.
Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, I just don't. I feel like we're bigger than you. We're the big guys on the block. We have the big dicks. I'll deploy the military. We're gonna crush you. I think his actual word was dominate.
Dominate. Yeah, he definitely used dominate at least twice. So.
And I don't think that every situation is a situation where you need to escalate the use of force.
Not at all.
And that was something that, like I said, I learned in law enforcement, and some guys exercise it, some guys don't. I think I told you I had guys that I worked with that it seemed like every shift they got into a fight with somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was always smaller guys. And I was like, dude, I've gotten into like 2 fights the whole time I was in law enforcement. And one guy was doped up and was just trying to, get away. And when I put my hands on him to handcuff him, he decided he wasn't going to jail. And another one was a woman who was suffering from, I don't want to say mental health issues, because she had wherewithal. She just was kind of batshit. So she decided when I was going to arrest her for a warrant, she wanted to start hitting me. So I get it. Obviously I didn't kneel on her throat or anything like that, but like there's definitely insecure people who feel like they just need to flex on people, and that's what it feels like. And it's not one of those things that you can win. Like, I get it. I saw a buddy of mine who lives in a very rural area, and he had said, I don't understand why law enforcement and the National Guard and stuff let rioters or protesters continue to do this. Stop them. And I pointed out to him, I was like, for what it's worth, man, if there's a prison riot, do you think that they tell the corrections workers, all right, go in there and by any means necessary end the riot? Or do they kind of let it play out and people wear themselves out, they get their point done, and then you go and handle it afterwards? I was like, you can't send in anybody outnumbered 100-1 and tell them to use whatever force to overpower that 100 and hope not for a loss of life.
Yeah.
Like, it's just going to happen. And you shouldn't be able to tell the military, other Americans, to go and take lives of other Americans if it gets the job done. Like, that's absolutely fucked up.
It is. You know what? My problem with the my dick's bigger than yours, domination tactic, I guess, is the best way to describe it. Is I think it would have been wiser to find activists in the community and bring them to the White House and figure out what's going on. What are your, not necessarily what do you, I don't want to say what are your demands, because I don't want it to seem like a terrorist negotiation or whatever. But like, what do what can we do to try to bridge this gap and figure this out?
Yeah. What is a peaceful resolution to this? Because if we
Exactly.
both decide we're going to stand our ground, obviously people are going to die.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and it blows my mind that like that's not even an option, nor has it been discussed as one at all in any of this. It's like you want them to be peaceful, but you yourself don't want to be peaceful.
No, because I'm the big kid on the block, and I shouldn't have to be. I shouldn't have to make concessions. It makes me look weak. That means next time it opens us up for more concessions, and that's the whole never negotiate with terrorists thing with foreign entities and shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm sure that's not the perfect preferred solution for some people, but I don't know why it can't be at least looked at as a possibility.
Well, I mean, if my wife and I have a disagreement on something or I'm upset, I'm not going to start with punching her in the face. I'm going to start with communication and open dialogue and try and find every workaround for a peaceful resolution and with minimal bloodshed.
Yeah.
Whether, and I say that about, an argument with the wife, but obviously when I say bloodshed, I'm referencing what's going on now.
Yeah.
Because my wife would kick my ass.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've covered that your wife and my wife would kick our asses collectively. So,
yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what else to say on this particular subject. Like I think we've covered how fucked up it is, and So
yeah, and I'm sure it's not over. It's going to develop, and there's clearly people on social media with the cowboy mentality. of, oh, just wait for them to come to my house and I'll handle it for them. And
oh yeah,
like,
I just unfollowed
like,
a
I
couple
get
people
it.
on Facebook with that mentality.
I get it. It's your Second Amendment right. You have the right to protect yourself and your family. And in theory, if someone's coming to your house specifically to burn it down, it's not related to what's going on now. And you should be able to have the right to protect your family.
Absolutely.
If somebody flips over your car in the middle of the roadway because you're parked in an urban area and it gets set on fire, it's just property.
Yeah,
It's
real.
And you know, we talked about this, the guy that got out of his car with a bow and arrow.
God damn.
You know, because they were blocking the roadway, and it's like, well, you know, you even made the comment. He's like, unless he's got like the unlimited arrows code, he's not going to stand a chance. I mean, even if you get out of your car, and I've seen people make the post that says, "This is why I support having a 30-round magazine on my rifle." It's like, well, do you really think if there's a mob of thousands of people that 30 rounds is going to save you, or do you think it's going to guarantee your death?
Yeah, it's going to guarantee your death in most cases. So,
you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, there's stupid people that are getting in front of cars and have every opportunity to get out of the way, and they're making it a point to stay in front of the car, and then eventually, you know, physics takes over and somebody gets run over. And it's like, well, you know, they were doing 2 and you're trying to harm them, you're smashing in their windows. What choice do they have? They need to try and get out of there. Don't dive in front of the car to try and get them to stop, because if they have to make a choice between your life or theirs, they're gonna let you go.
yeah, absolutely. It's weird because like I don't care that protesters like block roads. Like I'm sure it's inconvenient, but I think the greater scenario is more inconvenient than being stuck in traffic for a couple hours one day.
Right.
But at the same time, like I fully am okay with the people who, you know, if they find themselves in that scenario, like being able to defend themselves, you know, to the best of their ability, obviously.
Right. And we're, neither of us is opposed to I mean, we obviously don't want to be inconvenienced, or it wouldn't be called that, but we're not opposed to people blocking traffic and causing an inconvenience. That we get that. It's power of the people, power in numbers. Look what we can do. You know, you don't think of us as anything significant, but we clearly have power as well. But when it turns violent towards the vehicle occupants, then now you've gotten into the situation, like you've said, where, well, you know, if I have to defend my kids, or I have to try and escape the situation, if I have to run over 10 people to save my kid's life, you know, most people don't have a hard time making that decision.
Yeah. And I don't fault them for making that decision in that scenario. But on the other hand, you've seen where like the NYPD cruiser plowed into the crowd, and NYPD like framed it as like his foot slipped off the brake sort of incident, and I'm just like, what? Like, so it's, you know, there's lots of different scenarios, and then you got the fucking tanker driver who just decided he wasn't going to even bother trying to stop, and, you know, tried to plow through a crowd of people. So
yeah, the one I saw today was a dually with like a large horse trailer on it, and the crowd is kicking it and trying to break the windows, and, you know, he lets off the brake and lets the truck start going forward, you know, to continue to move along, and 2 people are in front of the car and put their backs against the front of the truck and are trying to stop the truck, and obviously you're not going to stop the diesel. And you can, you know, he slowly idles by, and you can see that like they're losing their footing and stuff, and they go for probably 100 feet, and then one person takes a tumble, and underneath the truck they go.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you know, again, I don't want anyone to get hurt.
Yeah.
And we used to run into that in law enforcement. If you're going to hang on to the car while the suspect's trying to flee and you get drugged down the road and get hurt, who's the dumbass?
Yeah. The person hanging onto the car. You should have stopped trying to hold this truck back 50 feet ago.
Right. Especially when they're like kind of at the headlights and you could have just gone off to the side to get out of the way. Like, it's not, you're only going to get yourself hurt. And even if the person catches a charge, you may never walk again.
Yeah. For real.
You know what I mean? And I understand people are impassioned and rightfully so. And, you know, we talked about this the other day that, oh, well, you know, you might go to jail for the rest of your life, or you might get killed. And it's like, well, the people that are disenfranchised feel as if their days are numbered anyway with any contact they have with law enforcement. So whether it's now or it's in 6 months or it's in 6 years, that's probably the likely outcome anyway. So at least now they feel they can make a difference versus just being another statistic on the street or another person who doesn't breathe anymore laying face down with a cop on top of them.
Absolutely. So, yeah,
It's
going to be interesting, buddy.
I'm sure it'll continue to develop. I don't anticipate that because Trump came out and decided he was going to try and flex the U.S. wiener on everybody that people are going to say, oh, you know what? We fucked up. Never mind.
Yeah. I assume that there's going to be a large portion of people that aren't just going to go home.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Speaking of which, I think there's a protest in your neck of the woods tomorrow.
You know what's weird? I only believe about half the shit I see about protests, because there's so many different, like there are groups of people out there who are creating these fake flyers, or sending out they're sending out these flyers that say meet. I saw one for Orlando that said to meet, we're going to meet here and then we're going to take it to the white people's hood. And I just don't feel like people that are going to just walk into neighborhoods and start causing damage and shit are going to broadcast it via flyer on Facebook. I feel like they're all smarter than that, and I feel like that's just a ploy from somebody who wants those people to look bad to get a bunch of people scared. So I don't know. I saw a flyer a few minutes ago for the one that's supposedly tomorrow in our area, and it's not, it says to wear comfortable shoes and tie your hair up and, whatever. And it's people are like, oh, they're definitely going to be they're planning to do harm if they're tying their hair back and covering noticeable tattoos. And I'm like, they just don't want to be identified. I think you guys are assuming the worst. And I guess it's, if that's your mentality to assume the worst and hope for the best, I don't know.
Well, and that's going to stoke fear as well, and it's only a matter of time before a gun-comfortable area sees the people marching down the street and fires into the crowd saying, they're here to burn my house down, and clearly that won't be the case.
Yeah.
So, did I send you the video of the cops in Minneapolis shooting paintballs at the people on their front porch?
Yeah.
Jesus.
This is America, buddy. It's wild times we live in, that's for sure. So.
America now. It's like the show Watchmen.
Yeah. I don't know
if you ever ended up watching the show.
No, I didn't. So, I don't think I'm that much of a nerd. And that's a nerdy thing, isn't it?
So, I mean, the Watchmen is a comic book, but the
okay.
TV series is like an HBO drama that's kind of it's loosely based on the comics, but they make their own alternate timeline. They're masked heroes, which is kind of like what the Watchmen were, but they're viewed as vigilante justice, and eventually there's a purge. The citizens have enough, and they effectively come and murder everyone on the police force in an Oklahoma town, and the state gets rid of, or the country gets rid of masked crime fighting because of it.
Damn, I might actually need to check it out.
It's a pretty interesting show if you have access to it. It's only one season.
I'm sure I can find access to it. I know my way around a streaming device, sir.
Right? One of them hacker deals.
Yeah.
I heard.
No. That's too much.
Speaking of hackers, did you see what Anonymous came out with?
I did. I've read some other reports from some other people in the, I guess for lack of a better term, like the intelligence or the IT intelligence community. And they say a lot of what they've released so far, or what has come from Anonymous so far, is stuff that was already released by other people or previously, and not, nothing that they've released is new or uncovered. None of it's new. So it's just kind of
I know
shit.
So some of it was the two filings, the California filing and the New York filing of the girl who was 13 and allegedly was forced to have sexual relations with Trump and Epstein and stuff like that. And
then they supposedly released a bunch of email addresses and passwords for people in the Minnesota government, or the police force and some other government. And there were several people from the intelligence IT community that came out and said these are all things that had been previously available from other hacks that had been completed that we already knew about. None of this is new. So, I mean,
a lot of times it's just consolidating information.
I don't know enough about hacking to not defend to be able to defend myself in a hack. So I'm not talking shit about Anonymous. I hope that they come up with some new shit, and because I remember get back to their heydays, because Anonymous used to leak some good shit.
Yeah, so did WikiLeaks at one point.
Yeah. Yeah, probably the same people. I think Julian Assange and such. I think he is anonymous.
He's still in jail, isn't he?
I think so. I don't know. Him and Edward Snowden are hanging out somewhere on an island, I'm sure.
No, I think Assange has been arrested and was going to get extradited to the United States.
Yeah, I don't remember where he was when he got
Snowden's
arrested.
still in Russia.
Snowden is still in Russia, which is weird that he's allowed to stay in Russia. So
I think Assange was in the UK at one of the embassies and had a falling out with the embassy, and they kicked him out.
That's what it was. Yeah, I think it was
It was like Ecuadorian or something of the sorts embassy. But
I guess he's in Australia.
Assange is?
Yeah. 1 hour ago, Australians want Assange free on bail.
Nice.
WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange misses UK hearing as unwell with respiratory... Oh, he's got coronavirus. Of course, they all do. Why is it everybody that has money ends up with the coronavirus and fucking out of jail or whatever?
Oh, like Epstein? Well, no, wait, he's dead. Was it Paul Manafort or Roger Stone or
I didn't know.
Other pieces of shit?
Assange is Australian. I did not know that. So,
right, and he had caught a charge at one point for having sex with someone consensually, but telling them he was wearing a condom and not actually wearing a condom. It was like a misdemeanor rape charge that he caught in Denmark or Sweden or some other Nordic country, I believe.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a hell of a tangent we just ran off on.
Sorry.
Ran off on the tangent twice. So do you want to? I know you had some stuff written down that you wanted to. Anything you wanted to touch on, or?
No, I didn't end up making any new notes, and it all kind of went into the trash bin with having watched that press briefing. I am not typically one that is a doomsdayer. It made me go, what the fuck?
Yeah,
and,
for real.
And I mean, I've said that a lot over the last couple of years, but I think people are ridiculous for buying guns and buying ammo and panicking and this and that. And the president gave a curfew of 7 p.m. tonight for Washington, D.C. to secure the Capitol, made it perfectly clear that it will be secured. And then obviously the comments he made about bringing in the National Guard, which is the governor's responsibility or decision. And if they don't, that he'll deploy the U.S. Army. That I've only been around for 37 years. I don't know that kind of statement has been made since like the 1860s, 1850s, as far as we're going to bring in the military to secure this.
Well,
on our own
it
land.
hasn't been made in that, but it hasn't been made in the way he made it. Even in the tone, in the wording, none of it. The act that he is talking about using has been used, like I said, as recently as 92 for the LA riots.
Okay.
But, I'm sure when George Bush, the first one,
right.
When he invoked it, it probably wasn't with the same attitude or tone or mentality that this guy, said he was going to use it with. So, but like I said, the LA riots were wild as shit too. So hopefully we don't see something like that again. Because I remember I was only 9 or 10 years old, so I didn't fully understand it. But I remember watching some of the coverage of those when I was a kid. But. So, it didn't really, phase me. I just remember, seeing it on TV or the news or whatever.
Right, there was wild shit going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully, that doesn't occur again, especially not to that level. So,
right, and obviously the loss of life is, again, something that is paramount. We want to, we hope everyone avoids and everyone stays safe. And, I mean, Hong Kong's been protesting now for every weekend for a year, effectively.
Yeah.
And I know that was one of the things I saw on Reddit on Get It Off My Chest is there was a Hong Konger who said, listen, I'm posting from not my normal account because, I don't want anyone to see my name, but I kind of feel like it's some bullshit that America's got these protests going on and they've been happening for less than a week and the whole world is out here supporting them. And I feel like us Hong Kongers, it's like, fuck, pay attention to us, help, because we've been doing this for over a year.
I meant to send it to you, and I know I didn't because I got distracted otherwise, but the Chinese government is actually openly mocking the U.S. government on social media for not handling, because when the protests were really bad in Hong Kong, what was it, maybe a month or two ago? May have been, I think it was closer to the beginning of the year. It was before all the coronavirus stuff got really ramped up.
Yeah, I mean, January was like 8 years ago, though.
So the U.S., they were putting out tons of rhetoric about, China needing to support Hong Kong's independence and blah, 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 blah. And the Chinese government they've gone back and found some tweets from that time from different people within the U.S. government and just retweeted it with like the comment of, "I can't breathe," like in a very like mocking sort of way, which I thought was very bold and just really shows how wild of times we live in. When other nation, or honestly, this is probably, what is it, the second biggest nation, money wise, aren't they slightly behind ours, or I don't remember where they lie, but
they're second largest economy in the world.
It's our biggest competitor effectively. They're just openly mocking us on social media.
Yeah, I saw also that the order was given to not buy American food. Excuse me.
Yeah.
To buy American food supplies.
Man, like that's gonna, the repercussions of that are going to be on multiple fronts. They're going to affect multiple industries. So
absolutely.
Because you've got the farmers who are obviously the first thing that you would think of being affected by that, but farmers support multiple other industries, that are going to be affected. And we've already pumped billions of dollars into the farming industry. You wonder how much more we can actually pump in before we, kind of figure out, where to, I don't want to say cut our losses, but, like figure out where we need to, because at some point, like, we can't just keep throwing money at any of our problems. Like, we've got to,
right.
We
actually have to solve them, not just pay them to go away.
Pretty much, yeah. That doesn't work. It only works for so long, or it only works on a problem here and a problem there. If you start throwing money at all of your problems, then eventually you run out of money and create more problems. So
yeah,
but hey, there's people smarter than me that can probably figure that out. Hopefully, can they get the people that matter to listen? Though is the real question.
No, but if you're on Facebook, you're clearly smarter than the experts in that field.
That's true. I got C's in high school. But there's a lot of people that are experts in their field that I'm smarter than. So
exactly. I wonder how many people have won a Nobel Prize by winning a comment conversation on Facebook.
37 of them based on my friends list / people that I've deleted over the last week or so. So
we had that conversation about being the smartest guy in the room means you're in the wrong room.
Yeah,
and we had that conversation because of a comment section where everyone's arguing against, as a for instance, Dr. Fauci, who's kind of leading the charge about coronavirus. And I just went in there and I was completely straightforward. I'm like, listen, there's 5 of us in here, and between the 5 of us, we probably have less time in college learning about biology than this man has.
Yeah.
And we can combine our 5 selves. I was like, and the guy's got 40 years experience in the field. He's revered within his field, and just, I'm not going to give up what anybody actually does, but I was like, there's a sales guy, there's a stay-at-home parent, there's there's a car salesman, whatever it is. I was like, none of us are experts like this guy is. Why are we even trying to argue against what he said? And that's where you made the comment. You're like, buddy, I don't mean this negatively, but chances are, if you're in that kind of comment thread, you're the smartest guy in the thread.
Yeah, for real. And you were.
Yeah, definitely always trying to be in a room where I'm not the smartest guy, because I like other people's input and open conversation and learning. And
there was a time in my life where I did not like those things. I wanted to be the smartest guy in the room. I am not that person anymore. I am very, very open to listening and such. So I want to hear. I understand that there's lots of shit out here that I just don't have the time to even possibly begin to know. And I'm going to assume that, respiratory viruses is on the list of things that I'm going to trust somebody else's opinion that spent the money to learn it. So,
yeah,
you want to learn how to start a podcast? Holler at me.
You want to learn how to do it well? Call another person that's smarter.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get you started. You got to talk to somebody else to make it successful and good. Oh.
Awesome.
Yeah. Hey, Well,
talking about success and good. We're 40 minutes in. I don't think we're doing a small business shout out this week, right?
Nope.
We kind of forewent almost all of that stuff. So we're still sending out stickers. If anybody wants stickers, we're happy to send them. Send us a message and we will get it out to you. We just ask that in response for free stickerness, you send us pictures of where you stuck the sticker.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely sent some out last week, so hopefully we'll be getting some pictures in soon from the people that I sent them to. I mailed off 5 or 6 different. I think it was 6 total different packages of stickers. So
good deal. Now we just need to do our part and actually put the pictures on social media.
Yeah, got to do that. We should probably post on social media more than once a week too. Got to figure that out.
Yeah,
I'll cut that out. Whatever.
I'll cut that out.
Yeah.
So, do you want to do trash or treasure?
Absolutely.
All right. So this week for trash or treasure, I am picking somebody, and Mike will be guessing. Hopefully, I've given accurate clues, but also clues that are not dead giveaways, because I'll be sad if he gets these before I get to go through them.
All right.
So you ready, buddy?
Correct. Let's go. Let's get it.
All right. So this person is a professional athlete, a movie actor, and has had their own television show. Okay. They are from Brooklyn, New York.
LL Cool J.
It is not Ladies Love Cool James.
Damn it.
This person's dad bailed on the family right around the time that this person was born, and this person's mother died when this person was 16 years old. By the age of 13, this person had been arrested 38 times. During the course of their adult life, they were sentenced to 6 years in prison at one point and got out after 3. They've made over $300 million as an athlete and filed bankruptcy in 2003. The media reported that person was $23 million in debt. This person had 8 kids and has been married 3 times. Any guesses yet?
No, nothing yet. I'm still...
Okay. This person dropped out of high school as a junior and later on in life would be awarded an honorary doctorate degree. This person pleaded guilty to possession of cocaine and driving under the influence, was convicted of the charges, and sentenced to 24 hours in jail. After his release, was ordered to serve 3 years probation and undergo 360 hours of community service.
Still nothing.
Okay. I wanted to try and get all these in here, so I'm glad you're not guessing it yet. The first person he was married to, the marriage lasted roughly a year. The spouse said there were allegations of violence, abuse, and mental instability on this person's part. He, in a book later on, would say that he did in fact punch his wife, that first wife that we were talking about, while they were together. And quote unquote, that was the best punch I've ever thrown in my entire life.
Mike Tyson?
It is Mike Tyson.
Nice. Look at that.
So, and I didn't even get to any of the more interesting stuff, so we'll go through it real quick. Yeah. Mike Tyson had a 4-year-old daughter of his die at home. She got tangled up on a cord on a treadmill. He was married to a second person for about 6 years, had 2 kids with them, and they separated because of her claim he was being adulterous. Mike Tyson was eventually diagnosed with bipolar and was quoted at one point as saying, "My whole life has been a waste. I've been a failure. I just want to escape. I'm really embarrassed with myself and my life. I want to be a missionary. I think I could do that while keeping my dignity without letting people know they chased me out of the country. I want to get this part of my life over as soon as possible. In this country, nothing good is going to come of me. People put me so high, I wanted to tear that image down." Mike, after he ended up having all his substance abuse issues, he made the comment that he effectively was killing himself with alcoholism. He got sober and went to a vegan diet, which he has since moved away from. He does occasionally eat chicken. This is what made me think of it when I saw this article the other day. Mike Tyson's first fight he ever got in with a kid was a kid that was bigger than him that pulled the head off of a pigeon. So Mike was always made fun of it because of his voice and his lisp. So he just was friends with pigeons and had a real attachment to them. And one of the older kids ripped the head off a pigeon and he beat the shit out of him. More clues that were on here. Converted to Islam, changed his name to Malik Abdul Aziz. He won 26 of his first 28 fights by knockout or technical knockout, with 16 of them happening in the first round. Youngest heavyweight champion ever at the time, won the championship belt in a knockout in the first round in 91 seconds. So Mike, when he went to prison for 6 years, or got sentenced to prison for 6 years, that was for the rape of a young lady who was Miss Black Rhode Island. Mike still insisted that it was consensual sex, and that she was aware of everything and that he didn't pressure her. Mike's been known as the baddest man on the planet. It has been described as perhaps the most ferocious fighter to ever step into a professional ring. I actually pulled up his calisthenics schedule and his exercise schedule, and it's incredible. So he would do 200 sit-ups, 50 dips, 50 push-ups, and 50 shrugs with weight 10 times a day throughout the day, 6 days a week.
Jesus.
And that doesn't include, he'd get up at 4 a.m. and go for a jog of 3 to 5 miles. He'd come home and shower and go back to sleep, wake up and eat breakfast, 10 rounds of sparring with 3 sets of calisthenics, lunch, 4 more rounds of sparring, bag work, slip bag, jump rope. So he was an absolute, like, he would get up at 4 a.m. and would be done about 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and just always focused on it.
Yeah.
And I've got some really neat quotes. Well, some of them aren't very nice, but let me see. He has been quoted as saying, "I just have this thing inside me that wants me to eat and conquer. Maybe it's egotistical, but I have that in me. I don't want to be a tycoon. I just want to conquer people and their souls." He did have the one statement where he said he wanted to rip someone's heart out and show it to them, which is ridiculous. There's one I really want to find again. Okay, so there was a time that he was on a talk show and there was a male and a female host, and the female host started asking him questions, and this is during Mike's peak, like, testosterone rage years. And he responded, he's like, "It's no doubt I'm going to win this fight, and I feel confident about winning this fight. I normally don't do interviews with women unless I fornicate with them, so you shouldn't talk anymore unless you want to,
Damn.
Yeah. So my power is discombobulatingly devastating. I could feel his muscle tissues collapse under my force. It's ludicrous these mortals even attempt to enter my realm."
Shit.
So he also said something. There was another fighter interviewing who they said they had developed a plan on how to defeat Mike Tyson. His response was, "Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face."
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably one of his more famous quotes.
Mm-hmm.
So my first guess was LL Cool J, and it was sort of a joking guess. But to bring this full circle and to jump into some quotes from Mike Tyson, I don't remember what year it was. I want to say it was, let's see, what song? Let me try to see real quick. 98. Okay. So in the late 90s, LL Cool J was beefing with a rapper from the same area, and his name is Cannabis. And one of Cannabis is probably his most famous song, and the one that, while debatable, would point to him winning this battle against LL Cool J. Mike Tyson did like a little opening monologue too, and he said, "Hey, Mike Tyson here, speaking with the Cannabis man over here. Yo, Cannabis, your main objective out here is to do nothing but eat MCs for lunch, breakfast. Hey, man, they've been playing me all my life, man. I won a title a couple times. Dig, right? But they can't hurt us, man. We gonna do it. Get up in this ring, man. Put on these gloves. Let me show you how to handle this little inward." And for the longest time, like, that was the song is really good, but that opening monologue, like, I had that shit memorized. It was like on repeat constantly when I was listening to Cannabis a lot back in my days of listening to, because he's not really popular anymore. Like, he's not putting out new stuff. So
right.
But I always thought that was awesome that he could get, like, somebody like Mike Tyson, and he wasn't like a big name, like, he wasn't commercially signed at the time, like, so it was kind of like him punching above his weight class. So it was, there was more to it than just the lyrics or whatever, which I thought was kind of cool. Having said all of that,
was
go ahead.
He was a big name. I mean, and he was very impressive, and I know the comments always Muhammad Ali, and obviously there was a fight night game where it was Muhammad Ali versus Mike Tyson. And, I wasn't alive to watch Muhammad Ali when he was doing it, but I can vaguely remember Mike Tyson just leveling everybody he fought. And he was just so fast, and it was like surgical. He's like 5'10" and 240. And he's been, on lists of the hardest hitting boxers in the history of boxing. And I feel bad saying it this way. He was an absolute animal. Like, he was driven and dedicated, and that's all he knew was to fight. And he had every intention. And in one of the quotes I didn't bring up, to him, when he got in the ring, it was about breaking that person's will, taking their manhood, and leaving them shattered. He's like, I want to dominate them, like the president said, but it's more than just winning. I want to kill my opponent.
Yeah.
So he's just a monster.
So
and he at one point, he's coming back. Like, he said he'll fight Tito Ortiz, and he said, I'll fight anybody who wants to fight. And last time he was on Joe Rogan, Joe Rogan had asked him, because Joe Rogan's a combat sports guy. He asked Mike about it, and Mike's like, listen, man, I don't even train. I don't do any of that. He's like, I realized keeping my mind in that kind of set just kept getting me in trouble outside of the ring. He's like, I stopped. He's like, I don't even go running anymore because I don't want to put myself in that mindset.
Yeah. It's powerful to be able to, for him to be able to recognize that to that extent, that mindset changes him the way it does.
If you ever want to watch his cartoon that he had, because we know he was in Hangover movies, and
it's on Adult Swim, right?
Yeah, it's called Mike Tyson Adventures, and it's like Scooby-Doo.
I've woke up to it a couple of, like, when you leave the TV on, because I know it comes on super late. So, like, we'll watch Adult Swim for, like, Rick and Morty or Family Guy or American Dad or whatever they're running at night, and I'll wake up in the middle of the night and it'll be on. So I've caught a couple scenes of it. It seemed pretty funny.
It's weird.
Yeah, but so overall, I think that Mike Tyson is trash, but there's a caveat to that, because I don't. His damaged childhood, his damaged brain from getting punched, as a boxer, I think leads to probably a lot of the decisions he made, and I think he's started to make a comeback of sorts, like in a good way, to try to clear up his image and be a better person. So I like that, but I've still got to lean towards trash just for the rape and the physical abuse and stuff like that. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. To quote LL Cool J, don't call it a comeback. He's been here for years.
Yeah.
So, but no, he, I feel bad for him because obviously he had a real rough childhood, like you said. No dad, mom died at 16. He's always getting in trouble. He's getting beat up because he's a little kid, and had a speech impediment and stuff like that. And then he gets diagnosed with bipolar. And, I think it is really good that he's trying to make positive changes and getting sober and trying to talk to people about it and admitting his faults and stuff like that. But I think if you looked at it with everything on the scales, as impressive as he was to watch fight, that's not enough of a redeeming quality for having tuned up people and everything that he did do.
Yeah.
So I would say he'd probably fall into the trash heap. But was he running around with like Tupac or something at one point?
I don't think so.
I thought he was hanging out with a rapper at one point.
It was. I know he was. Like I said, he was with Cannabis a lot. I don't remember if he was. I don't think so. Like I can't point to any.
For some reason, I thought right around the time that like Pac got killed, he was hanging out with that group of people or something. He was even supposed to be in the car and ended up.
Actually, first link I click on is they were close friends. So.
Look at that. I knew something about the hip-hop music that you didn't know.
Yeah, look at that. So
I can even see a picture of Tupac and Iron Mike.
Yeah. They so it looks like they were pretty good friends. So,
I mean, if you're a gangster, don't you want to be hanging out with the baddest man on the planet if you can?
Yeah.
And vice versa?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know. I'm not one of those things, so.
You're the baddest man on the planet.
I'm the baddest man on this podcast. I promise you that. So.
Oh, I am now the fattest man on this podcast.
Hey. Sorry, I felt bad for calling you fat the other day, and right after I said it, I was like, initially I was like, man, that felt great, and then I was like, God, now I know what all the people like. Now because I knew how you felt in that moment, I was like, oh,
It's my worship tub.
Yeah, so I'm sorry for calling you fat. But
I wasn't sad. It was funny. It's okay.
I'm
a
glad
chubby
it was
kid.
funny. Yeah, it happens. So
I'm just glad my wife's a chubby chaser.
yeah, me too. So well, fuck. I guess let's get the hell out of here. We've done almost an hour, so I think we've done a lot of good today. So.
Yeah. I just, we have this platform, as many or as few listeners as we have, and we know that it wasn't all shits and giggles this week. We just felt it would be a disservice to not mention the serious stuff going on. Obviously, with the coronavirus and stuff, we've made some jokes and we yell the Cardi B clip and stuff like that. But
yeah,
with what's going on right now, it's a serious thing. It's something that'll go on the books in history, for our kids and grandkids. Not that we have those, but you know what I mean. Those future generations to look back and see that it was a moment where it was a moment where we either fucked up or we straightened up. And we just hope that it's, whatever the outcome is, whichever way it goes, that it's with as little loss of life as possible. So
absolutely.
You guys be safe out there. We love you.
Definitely be safe out there. We love you guys. Just for real quick, just remember, check us out on all of our social media at Nothing in Mod Pod. We will catch you guys next week.
Bye.
See ya.
See ya. Hey kids, you've reached the end of the podcast. That's it. There's nothing more here. Just dead air and this closing statement. We appreciate your diligence, though. Now go back about your day and come back for the next show. Or listen again. In fact, that sounds like a better plan. Grab another show. That's what I'm doing right now. Whoever listens the most wins. You don't really win anything, really. Just the memories of better times, which is winning in my book. All right, well, this is the actual end. Hand banana.